What's up guys, Joe here from SFIF. Thank you for joining me on my videos. As always, I really appreciate your support. And if you're new to this channel, it's no surprise guys, I love blades, I love swords, I am the blade addict. This is another great sword from Cloudhammer Steel Works. Very appreciative to John from RVA Katana for sending me out these swords to get my honest assessment of what I feel about these swords. It's a great thing what Cloudhammer is doing, and I'm not the only one. They're sending out to a couple of my colleagues, a couple of great sword reviewers as well, just to get our opinions and also hear your comments when you see the videos to see what you guys are thinking about the swords. Cloudhammer Steelworks is a learning company. They're a new company that's producing good products as it is, but they are a learning company. They are taking criticisms and recommendations on how they put together their swords to improve their product, to improve their next line and the line after that, to make sure that you are receiving pretty much a lot of bang for your buck, because these swords are not crazy expensive. They're definitely not cheap. I mean, they range from 300 to a little under 1,000 for most of their inventory. But for what they're pricing you and what they're giving you, I think they're giving you a very good quality sword, and they're guaranteed to improve. That's the great thing about them, is they're listening to their reviewers, they're sending their samples out, and they're guaranteeing that they are improving their product for the most part, which is a great thing, and you gotta respect that. That's why, not to sound like a fanboy Cloudhammer, but I respect a company that takes those steps to improve their product and to listen to criticism and to give you an overall good sword for your buy. So what I did first, guys, I wanted to test the edge of this blade. It's not the best test, but I think a great test to test the edge profile of the blade is to cut empty water bottles or air-filled water bottles, because mostly any sword out of the box can cut a fully water-filled bottle, because you have the weight of the water holding the bottle in place, and it's just going to have to cut. And if it has any edge on it whatsoever, it will get through the water bottles. With bottles that are filled with air, number one, you need to have a great edge profile. It needs to be conducive to cutting. It has to have a good sharpened edge in order to get through the bottles without denting them in or sending them flying. So you have maybe about 1 or 2 shots to try to get through that air-filled bottle to see if the edge profile is conducive to cutting.
I wasn't that successful with the first water bottle. It kind of broke into it. I know the sword definitely can cut, but it kind of didn't go totally through with it. So I tried another water bottle to see if I would be successful. It might have been my edge alignment. And with this cut, it cleaned right through. Very clean cut. No jagged edges. It did a pretty good job in cutting up this water bottle pretty cleanly. Hard plastic bottles like this Arizona bottle are a good test to show you the strength of the blade if it doesn't take any sets or any chips. Now the first cut into this bottle, I realized I need a little bit more force, because it kind of went through, it cut like into the handle, but it didn't fully get through it. So I figured, let me try it again with a little bit more force and a little bit more heft into the cut. So you notice on this cut, it kind of really went through it, but the plastic shattered all over the place. But that sometimes happens with these hard plastic bottles, that it would just kind of shatter. But I've had other swords where it cleanly cut through it, but you always get these jagged edges. But the important thing is it went through the cut all the way through, and there was no damage to the blade or any bends or anything like that. So that's a good testament for the strength of the steel and professional edge profile they did to the edge itself.
Another step is obviously pool noodles. Pool noodles, we all know, there's a misconception with pool noodles, because it looks like they're the easiest target in the world to cut. If you don't hit them with the right edge angle, and you don't have an edge that's put onto the sword or the blade that's conducive to cutting, and the profile is conducive to cutting, it would just kind of push the pool noodle around, and it won't fully cut the pool noodle in a clean cut.
Now understand, since I am cutting indoors, I can't get a full sword extension, so I had to kind of tuck it into my shoulder blade. But for the most part, it did a really good job in cutting up this pool noodle. I think out of the box, it definitely can cut. If it cut for me, I think in the hands of a more experienced practitioner, it'll do a great job.
So those are 2 good tests, I think, to test the edge right out of the box. And just to confirm, I did not hone this edge. I didn't strop it. I didn't do anything to this edge. It came to me out of the box into the saya. Out of the saya, I went to cutting. I didn't do anything to the edge. So it'll give you a testament of exactly what you're getting from Cloudhammer. Now, this is also some good criticism you can give to them to say maybe the edge should be sharper or maybe it's just right. My belief is this, guys: if you're a knife reviewer, or if you're a knife owner, let's just say, if you're a knife owner or a sword owner and you don't just collect the swords for aesthetic reasons or just to hang them up or just to be a collector, and you physically are using your knives, whether it be for work or for enjoyment, if you're using your knives, or if your swords, you're not working with your swords, but if you're using your swords to cut with and practice with, backyard cutting, practicing your edge, practicing your swings and all that, and you really want to use the swords to cut with it for pastime or enjoyment, you need to know how to maintain your blades. Because even if if the manufacturer gives you a good edge out of the box, that edge won't last forever. Certain edges have better edge retention, of course, but the edge won't last forever. So you need to have a method of how you will hone or fine tune the edges in order for them to continue to work for you. So that is just something that really people don't talk about, but you have to sharpen and you have to maintain your blades if you are going to be a blade owner. So what did they give you out of the box, guys? I think they gave you a pretty good edge. It definitely got through the water, the bottles pretty well. It definitely got through the punos pretty well. So that would tell me that out of the box, this is basically sharp enough out of the box to cut. Now, will this cut could go through tatami mats? I can guarantee it should definitely get through tatami mats if it went through the air bottles or the pool noodles. Specific steel here is an SX105 Japanese tool steel. It's a very good steel. Reason why I love this steel is the fact that it is comparable to a T10 tool steel. I think that this is a little bit more superior than a T10 tool steel. It's a newer type of steel, and the great thing about this particular steel is it can be either through hardened, which is this one, it's a through hardened blade, or it can be a differentially hardened blade, which is the next round of swords I'm going to be reviewing from Cloudhammer. I have an SX105 Japanese tool steel that's differentially hardened with a really beautiful hamon. But you know, there's no compromise here. This is also a really beautifully polished blade. It's got an Okazaki tip, which I think could be rounded out or improved a little bit, but it's definitely a very good polishing job, which you have seen pretty much from all the Cloudhammer swords. You have an amazing mirrored polish look. It's got a really great grinded edge profile. It's conducive to cutting. It is conducive to use. Okay, they make their swords for practitioners, for people who are looking to use and cut their swords with their swords and are looking to have them hold up cut after cut. For the most part, they've been doing a lot of great work on their sayas. I particularly really like this saya on this Cloudhammer sword. Number one, it's got a different a shape here, like a European sword or one of the Tachi swords, tightly fit on. I love how it looks. But the most distinguishing feature of this particular saya, number one, it's got a Hishime varnish, which not a fingerprint magnet, very smooth sliding in the hands or in the obi belt. What I love about this, and if you can just take a look at it here, you notice how you have a really nice distal taper of the saya all the way to the tip, to the kojiri here. So it kind of thins out from the habaki area all the way down to the Kasaki tip. So it makes it a very slender, good fitting sword, and you'll notice that there's not going to be any blade rattle because of how they formatted this. It's got a distal taper pretty much from here all the way down to here from facing up, and from the side it also has a really nice distal taper. So it really thinned this thing out, and it fitted really nicely into the blade, which doesn't promote any sword rattle whatsoever. It goes in and out of the saya really well. There's no sword rattle, nothing at all. I really love this thin profile, and I wish actually I would see a lot more swords having this thinned out distal taper on the saya, which you don't really see on the market that much. A katana with some tachi aspects to it. I can say this all day long, guys. I really love this patented leather ito wrap that they put onto their sukas or their skas. It's shaped as is, it's got a very thin profile. They try to attempt a nice hourglass shape to all of their skas, but the ito wrap is just such a beautifully comfortable wrap, this leather wrap, and the diamonds are pretty much all even. You can barely move them. They have a knack for giving you a very good, tightly wrapped ito on all of their swords, along with them being comfortable, slender in the hand. They have a very, I can't speak enough with how well their scars or their sukas or their handles are made up. As always, you have a pretty good quality samegawa or ray skin underneath the wrap, tight wrap, really good quality Minuki designs. Makugi pegs are definitely out of the wrap, so they're easy. The sword is easy to disassemble. You also have only one Makugi peg as opposed to two, which I have a lot of respect that they do that. Pretty much easy to disassemble, easy to put together, and they have a really good fit and finish. You know what? There's no rattle, there's no movement on it. I don't know if they started putting adhesive, but the transitions are great. There's no movement. Nothing uncomfortable about it in your hands, and it's got some pretty nice designs on it, guys. It can be a little bit muddy, but for the most part, I do love the casting work that Cloudhammer does, and it's also different. You don't really see these very often. You know, the knot is very tight. Everything is very good. The Fuchi, the only problem with this Fuchi was, and I was alerted ahead of time, the Fuchi collar, which there is some movement on it because it's a little bit larger than the actual scar. This was already noted before it was coming over that they're going to either increase the size of the scar to coincide with the Fuchi, or they'll make the Fuchi a little bit smaller, but there is some gap on one side of the Fuchi that you can definitely get your finger in. Does it hinder the performance or anything like that, or make it unstable? No, but it's definitely cosmetically, this definitely should be addressed, and I think that this was definitely noted before the sword came to me. But again, pretty nice designs on the Fuchi that coincide with, again, the motif of the dragon style Suba and fittings of the Koshiri that they're trying to attempt on this sword, and they did a fine job on it. I really do like the castings on their swords. Okay, this is actually pretty much an oversized Suba. My concern with an oversized Suba is that it may make the sword a little bit unbalanced. I didn't find too much unbalancing issues. It definitely made the sword a little bit heavier than your normal sword, because this Suba is a pretty nice piece of metal here. But with some practice and with some use, there's not really... If you're looking for a lighter sword, this is definitely not a light sword, but it definitely is balanced enough where it can distribute the weight to give you a POB or a point of balance at around 4 inches. So it could be better, but you know, anything at around 4 inches is still a pretty balanced sword. Anything lower than 4 inches is an extremely balanced sword. So could it have been better maybe with a lighter or smaller Suba? Maybe, but it doesn't really affect the performance of cutting or the ease of control of the sword, of this particular sword. Sageo string is of this, same consistent quality of this Sageo rope here. Pretty thick, not the best in the world, but it's definitely serviceable. I think practitioner would definitely appreciate using this. I don't see any issues with using this Sageo to wrap around your OB. It's a nice quality, and it's a nice color. Actually, it's a nice, really nice, slightly goldish color that really complements all the other pieces of the sword. I really love their choices in what they choose to use in terms of the color scheme of all their swords. Everything kind of really fits together and matches. Okay, like I said, absolutely no sword rattle. I have my mic right over here. No sword rattle whatsoever at any point in the blade, and I think that's directly result of having a really nice distal tapered shaped saya right to the blade. I really wish more sword companies would do this. It really, the sword, you can feel it in and out, how it fits really, really comfortably. Okay, the blade fits really comfortably into the saya. It locks into place. There's enough friction where it won't fall out, but just enough friction where you can kind of thumb push it and it'll go right. So it really does kind of feel like it's going on rails, and there's absolutely no sword rattle whatsoever, which I am always a big fan of, and I always appreciate when you receive a sword that has such a great fit of the blade into the saya, and this is definitely no exception with the work that they put onto the saya to give it that nice slimmed out profile from the front and from the side. The habaki of this blade, guys, is a big feature of this blade. I love that window style look of this habaki, where you can see the blade through the middle of the habaki. It's definitely different. I always love getting something different that's not very common in the marketplace. This is definitely a very beautiful looking habaki, and it's something that you don't normally see. It's got a great fit, great finish, great shape, great design. Aesthetically, I am really loving how this actually fits with the rest of the sword. This is the major, the main thing that I kind of noticed as soon as I took this thing out of the box is the fact that, wow, this is actually a different habaki. I haven't seen this before, and that's always appreciated as well. The copper seppers, I kind of wish they kind of just put some silver seppers here to kind of match up with the motif of the sword or the color scheme, but you know, it kind of fits well. I guess with the copper seppers, it matches with the Sageo a little bit more, but I just feel like it would have blended a little bit well if they put silver seppers in here. So the blade itself, guys, like I said, it's a non-bohe sword. It looks as if it's an Okasaki tip. It looks as if this might be a Shobu Zakuri blade, because there's not really any Yokote line along the Okasaki here. So it looks like it's a Shobu Zakuri. It's an actual classic Shobu Zakuri blade as opposed to a Shinogi Zakuri. I mean, if you really look, you can probably see an Yokote line, but it's so faint that it's just kind of really like borderline Shobu and Shinogi Zakuri blade. I wish the Okasaki didn't come to a point and then slope down. I wish it kind of just rounded out completely around the whole edge. I don't know if they do that on purpose, but I would prefer it to be a little bit more rounded out to give it more of a really nice gradual Okasaki curve to give it that elongated tip. That's the only thing that I actually wish they would kind of improve a little bit. But like I said, guys, this is a tool steel. It's an SX105v tool steel. It's a very good blade, a very good steel. I think it's a pretty nice all-around good blade steel, because it can be true hardened, like I said, or it can be differentially hardened, which I'm looking forward to getting that review to you. It's a very strong steel, great edge retention, great edge profiling. I really love the work that they do on their blades, guys. I am very impressed with the edge geometry and the edge profile that they put on their blades. They're conducive to cutting. They're aesthetically beautiful. The Mune, everything kind of just, you have a nice distal taper right to the tip. Really nice, fine job on their blades. And again, guys, the balance is very good. The Tsuba is being oversized. It doesn't really hinder or overweight the sword in any way. It's still a pretty nimble sword, a little heavier than normal, but it's still a pretty nimble sword. And again, always having some good real estate on the ska, having a place to put your hands, and having a nice slender profile and not having the Ito move out of place as you're swinging it is always appreciated, and it's conducive to a very good quality sword and a good sword manufacturer. Okay, and as I said, guys, a million times, I love the mirror polishing that they put on their blades. It's definitely beautiful. They definitely do put a lot of work into giving you a really nice lustrous mirror polish on all their blades. Now the Koiguchi, guys, this is the one thing that I think should have been improved on here. If you notice very closely on the Koiguchi, there is a little bit of a break in the bow horn. I wish it could have been shaped a little bit better. I have seen one of the latest representations of a 31-inch Nagasa sword from Eric Hussein, where the Okasaki is probably the best. I'm sorry, the Koiguchi is probably one of the best shapes and the best quality wood I've seen on any of the swords that have been reviewed from Cloudhammer. So it would tell me that they are improving their product. This is definitely, could have been done a little bit better, could have been shaped a little bit better. There is a crack you can see on around the bullhorn that should not be there. But the important thing at the end of the day, guys, is that it fits the sword, it fits the habaki very well, even though there's cracks in the wood and all that. It fits the habaki very well, perfect friction. That's the important thing at the end of the day. Aesthetically, yes. Aesthetically, I wish it was done better, but it does not hinder on the performance of, if you're doing Noto or if you're using the sword to basically practice with, it doesn't hinder the performance of how you use the sword. In my opinion, aesthetically, it should have been better, but aesthetically doesn't always mean function. So in terms of function, this definitely crosses all their T's and dots all their I's. Aesthetically, I just wish they could have done that a little bit better. So once again, guys, this is another good representation of a sword from Cloudhammer Steelworks. Is it perfect? Yeah, the Fuchi is oversized, but I don't think they would have gave it to a customer like that. I think this sword kind of came out as a review sample. They knew there was an issue, and they did alert me ahead of time before I got it that the Fuchi collar was a little bit larger than the ska. They are addressing it, and they are fixing that problem, so they can use these fittings. If you like these fittings, they can use these fittings on your ska to make sure that the transitions would match up pretty well, but the transitions on the Kashida is very, very good. As long as the habaki and the suba, everything's very tight, great tight fit and finish, great quality blade, great polish on the blade, great edge profile they put on all their blades. They're beautiful blades, guys. They really have really good looking, aesthetically good looking blades. But all in all, guys, great fit and finish, great ska, great features on these swords as always. These swords are going to be passed on to other sword reviewers to cut with as well. I have two other swords that I do intend on doing a lot of cutting with. I have a zero grind sword from them and a differentially hardened sword of an SX105v, which I'm very excited to look at as well. So those I'll be doing exclusively filled water bottles, tatami mats, to show you how those swords perform. But for the most part, I've seen one thing constant on all their swords. They feel great in the hand, great control on the swings, and they have a great overall fit and finish. So kudos to Cloudhammer Steelworks for delivering such great swords and improving on their products. Until the next sword or knife review, guys, this is Joe from SFIF. Thanks for joining me as always. Please don't forget to subscribe and support my channel. Always much appreciated. Have a good one, guys. I'll see you when I see you on my next sword or knife review. Peace and love to you all. Ciao.